Now, I was a keen skier at this time, and I used to ski 2 or 3 times a year. I'd rather ski than have a summer holiday. God knows why. I don't like the cold, I don't like heights, and I'm not very sporty, but I loved it. And in those days, it was very much the fashion to have skis as long as possible. So I had a new pair of skis for Christmas, and I allowed the man in the shop to convince me that instead of the 4 or 5 centimeters longer that I had initially thought I would buy, he convinced me I needed an extra 10 centimeters. Went off skiing February half term, having spent the first 6 months of the school year planning strategically how we were going to move forward. And I went skiing with 4 friends, and with my previous skis, we were all very much on a par. But because I kept on wrapping those 10 centimeters around my neck, I was tail end Charlie and I kept falling. And on the Thursday of a week's holiday, I had a really nasty fall and I ripped my brand new ski suit from thigh to ankle and my earring went through my ear and I really shook myself up. So I said to my friends, I'm not going to ski with you tomorrow. I'm going to get my confidence back. And they said, well, okay, we'll meet you for lunch. And when we met, they said, we found this fabulous 6-kilometer run. Come and join us. And so I did. It was one of those amazingly beautiful days that you get in the mountains. It was February, late February. The sun was shining. The snow was glistening. It was just magnificent. And we went up on the chairlift. And as we went up from the village looked like a miniature village and you could just hear the shh of people skiing past. And we got off and I followed them. And we'd been going perhaps about 5 minutes when we turned a corner and I was behind them catching up. And when I caught them up, it was pretty evident that we weren't where they thought they were supposed to be. So instead of it being a 6-kilometer red run, it was a black diamond run. Now, those of you that don't ski slopes go from green, that's for learning, blue, red, black. Black diamond is for idiots and foolhardy. There was no way back. And so we had to traverse this huge mogul field. Now, a mogul is where the snow has been eroded by the wind and the rain. And it's a lump. And some of these are like cobbles. These were 6-foot monsters. And the only way to ski was to turn on the top of the mogul and slide down and then go along and then turn and do the same. And there was powder snow either side. So I skied the first third successfully. I was an experienced skier and I'd done plenty of black runs, but I hadn't done anything like this before. And then I left it too late to turn and I had a nasty fall. And it took me about 20 minutes to retrieve my ski and then ski down to where the other 4 were sitting, each on a mogul, rather like an elf sitting on a mushroom. Took my skis off and we were talking. And I think where my mogul had been exposed to the sun for longer, I suddenly found myself to be falling. And there was nowhere to land because it was so steep and because of these moguls. And the last thing I remember is a scream. That was me. And then everything went black. I have no idea how long it was, but I'd found in that rolling down and down and down, I'd found somewhere flat enough for me to land. Eventually, my friends skied down to me. They wanted to call the blood wagon. I was just as insistent that they weren't to do that. And the one good thing about it is that with the 2 falls and the skiing, I was pretty much at the bottom of the slope and we were very close to the hotel. So they helped me back to the hotel and I was in a bit of a state, but we traveled home the next day. Fortunately, in one way, we were traveling by coach, so I didn't have to do anything apart from get on the coach. And I arrived home and my mum took one look at me and dragged me off to A&E. And they said I'd got a bad concussion and I'd trapped a nerve in my neck. It took me 3 weeks to get back to school. And at this time I was still wearing a surgical collar and I wasn't right. I was just doing school and coming home and going to bed. 5 weeks later, we were due to take 150 some pupils on the borough ski trip and I was the deputy leader. And I was told I could go because we had a medic with us. And so during the week I skied, but I got more and more like Quasimodo as the week went on. And on the Friday, which is our last day, it was a medal day. It was foggy, it was cold. And when we got back to the hotel, I felt absolutely dreadful. And I said to my colleagues, I've got to go and lie on the bed. Went upstairs, and this was a cheap hotel. We were in bunk beds. God only knows how I got on the top bunk. But within about half an hour, I discovered that I was paralyzed down one side. The pupils were playing and talking in the corridor outside, and I didn't want to frighten them, so I waited. And I have to say that wait, and I don't really know how long it was probably the longest few minutes in my life until someone came to check on me. At that point, all hell broke loose, and I was carted off to the local hospital and then to Geneva University Hospital. And I was there for just over a week, and I was eventually flown home. And by that time, I could walk, but I still had some problems. And it took me about 3 months to get back to school. And I got back to school by the end of May, beginning of June. I wasn't right, but I could come in, teach, go home, go to bed.